into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, yes, it's Friday and it's going to be an action-packed weekend coming your way with the Indian Premier League auctions set to take place on Sunday and Monday. We've got you covered there. What can you expect from the auctions? Who are going to be the top buys and which teams will they end up all in? I'll give you an overview of the mega auction and what to expect, including a sneak peek to a very special mock auction that I was a part of. Indian cricketer R Ashwin held a mock auction and I was thrilled to be a part of that. Plus, there is a special interview coming your way as we build up to the Formula One race weekend in LA, looking back at the season that was and on and off the grid, and of course much more. But first, a look at the headlines. Starting with cricket and the Border Gavaskar Trophy, Test 1, Day 1 at Perth, Australia has ended it at 67 for 7. Jasprit Bumrah led the charge with 4 wickets. This was, of course, in response to India getting bowled out for 150 by T. Aussie Josh Hazlewood tore into India's batting order with 4 wickets. The Indian Premier League has released the dates for not one but their next 3 seasons. The 2025 league season kicks off from March 14th next year. Fast bowler Jofra Archer, whose name was missing from the auction due to injury, is back on it as teams gear up for the mega auction this weekend. In football, Peru captain Paulo Guerrero lambasted the match referee after his team's 1-0 defeat to Argentina in the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. The Peruvian accused the match referee of handing special treatment to his counterpart and soccer superstar Lionel Messi. In badminton, top men's doubles pair of Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty are ready for the quarterfinals at the China Masters event. Lakshya Sen also will be in the quarterfinals of the men's singles draw, while Olympic medalist PV Sindhu's campaign ended after a hard-fought defeat in the second round. And setting the pace for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton completes the practice with a clean sweep, leading both sessions. The 7-time champion led teammate George Russell in the first session and McLaren's Lando Norris in the second. The IPL auctions is coming up this weekend. It is the mega auctions, but with a lot of twists and turns to expect. And I'm going to give you a lowdown on what to follow, an overview of how the auction could pan out for the different teams and players, and who is most likely to walk away at the end of the 2-day event all smiles. So basic details out of the way. First, the mega auction is taking place in Jeddah, Saudi. The big day, of course, the main day is Sunday. The auction starts post-lunch and, of course, Indian Standard Time for the Indian viewers to tune in. There are, of course, a few changes that we will see at the auction this time. The rules were tweaked for retention. Each team could retain as many as 6 players, a mix of foreigners, Indians and uncapped. The uncapped player rule, which states that an Indian cricketer will be considered uncapped if he has not had a BCCI contract in 5 years. That same rule, which was scrapped in 2021, was reintroduced this year, basis which the Chennai team retained MS Dhoni. The right to match rule, that has a bit of a tweak too. So earlier there would be a bidding, and then once a franchise won a bid, the auctioneer would ask the team that had the player previously if they would like to RTM him, use the right to match card. And that was that. This time, the team that has won the bid for the player can hike the price once for the team that is willing to right to match. Sounds a little complex. For example, if Team Punjab won the bid for Mohammad Shami and Gujarat decided to use their right to match card for him, then Punjab have the opportunity to hike the price as a final bid offer that Gujarat will have to match to right to match Shami. Right, so let's get cracking. There will be a few new faces and a few new additions to each of the teams at the table. Of course, you will see the usual suspects at some of the tables like Mumbai and Kolkata, though the Knights will miss the presence of the stoic Gautam Gambhir, their head coach in the last victorious season. Word, of course, has it that the Chennai franchise could have a woman at the table for the first time. My namesake, the lady who's taking over the reins of the franchise from her father, N. Srinivasan, Rupa Gurunath. Ricky Ponting will, of course, be seen in different colours. He'll be at the Punjab table. Daniel Vettori will be present at the Hyderabad table. Maybe Bengaluru will have a good auction if Dinesh Karthik is present at their auction table. A big change in Delhi, who will see Hemang Badani at the helm, their new head coach. And the other massive newcomer, of course, though he's an old face with that franchise, Rahul Dravid in the Rajasthan camp. Of course, Justin Langer at Lucknow. What about the purse, though? Here's what the teams have in their money bags to spend. I'm going with the ones with the least to spend upwards. Of course, starting with Rajasthan, 41 crores, that's around $4.85 million. Next up, Hyderabad, a little more than them at 5.32. Of course, Mumbai coming in after that, as well as Kolkata and Chennai, around about the same amount, close to 5.34 as well as 6.04 million. Chennai just a tad more than that. Of course, then that's the last five. Let's go to the top five teams. Gujarat and Lucknow have a little more leeway when they are going to be there at the table. $8.17 million for both Gujarat and Lucknow to spend from their kitty. Now come the big spenders after Delhi. Of course, Bangalore, close to $10 million for them to splurge on the day. And of course, rounding it up, the team that can play party pooper and poke some holes in other teams' plans would be Punjab. Of course, also with the probability of walking away with the biggest buy with $13 million to spend. So who are the players who will be most sought after here? Who will be the ones teams will be buying for? They'll fight for. The players who are likely to be top picks for any side. Before that, let's understand the major requirements that quite a few franchises have. A captain, as we know, you need to build a team around that core, and a captain is where it all starts. So the teams who are skipperless, Lucknow and Bengaluru, have not announced their captains officially. We hear it could be the players they've retained, Nicholas Pooran for Lucknow and Virat Kohli for Bengaluru. What about the other teams? Kolkata, who decided not to retain their title-winning captain, Shreyas Iyer. Delhi and Punjab, they will be on the hunt for a captain. So needless to say, some Indian players who fit that bill will be top in their radar. So who will be the costliest buy? Needless to say, without doubt, it has to be Rishabh Pant. Not only is he captaincy material, he's one of the best keeper bats, a player who is a certified match winner. Punjab is likely to pick him up, plus his rapport with Ricky Ponting, all amounting to this happening. But will he get captaincy? We don't know about that. After that fallout with Lucknow franchise, KL Rahul needs another start over. And maybe the saying, home is where the heart is, would fit here for him. He's most likely to go to Bengaluru, back to the home soil. Strange for an IPL winning captain to be in an auction pool, but that is how the dice has rolled for Shreyas Iyer. And if the auction whisperers are to be believed, Delhi will be his home once again, and possibly as captain. We're not done with wicketkeeper bats. Like Shreyas Iyer, it has been a tough year for this young fiery opener, Ishan Kishan, and IPL could be that perfect place to turn the corner, to be that game changer. There could be many parties interested in Ishan Kishan. Maybe he will find a home next to one of his good friends, Shubman Gill in Gujarat, or who knows, Lucknow could also come in hot. We're not done with wicketkeeper bats. Joss Butler, a big player, a solid match winner and a leader too, may not find a spot as captain in a franchise, but he's one solid buy. There may be a scramble for him for sure, but we'll be curious to know where he ends up. Heading on to the bowlers, the big one is Arshdeep Singh, a massive RTM option for Punjab, and he should end up there. But let's see how his bidding war goes. For the foreigners, Mitchell Starc broke the bank the last time, proved his mettle, but will he trump the consistent Trent Bolt at the top in the monies department? Mohammad Shami should go back to Gujarat in all probability, but how will the bidding play out? On to the spinners. Can Washington Sundar and Yuzvendra Chahal spark massive bidding wars? We hear Bengaluru will want at least one of them. But who will they possibly get? Beyond this, there is, of course, the value buys, the smart Indian picks who may not be in that fancy marquee categories but are key to teams, and some could even rake in the monies like Venkatesh Iyer, Jitesh Sharma, Nehal Vadera, Vaibhav Arora, Anshul Kamboj, Rahul Tripathi, Nitish Rana. Then, of course, some foreign picks like Phil Salt, Ben Duckett, Jake Fraser McGurk, Glenn Maxwell. How can we forget his performance at the World Cup? Marcus Stoinis as well, another Aussie, could all grab some eyeballs for sure. There is so much more to how this can play out, but time is less here. But do not worry, we've got you covered. Do catch our auction coverage all through Sunday. It's a special watch party where we'll get you all reactions from across the country from ardent, passionate fans following the game as the auctions pan out on Firstpost. And speaking of auctions, I had the opportunity to experience what teams sitting at an auction table would do and how they would plan ahead of a mega auction. Indian cricketer R Ashwin organized a mock auction for his platform and invited me to be a part of that. I was the co-fake owner of the Gujarat Titans franchise, and there was a day-long constricted auction, a little abridged version. Not as many players went under the hammer as would be the case come the real auction, with that being over 2 days, making a squad of 25. We, of course, had to make a squad of 18. Quite a bit of money to achieve that. There was a lot of homework that was also carried out, and I must say I was absolutely thrilled that at the end of the review, Ashwin and his team picked Gujarat's mock team that I picked along with my co-owners as one of the top 4 squads coming out of that auction. A sneak peek of that.
Sports journalist for around 20 years. I don't want to sound old though, but CSK level, of course, for 4 years. Not during the time, unfortunately, that Ash was there. Adukapron GT for about a year and a half too, and then now I am sports editor with Firstpost at Network.
Wow, nice. உங்களோட strategy என்னவா இருக்கும் ரூபா?
GTக்கு is one thing that we've kind of good thing is retention has been pretty good. Adu solno for sure.
Happy-ஆ இருக்கீங்க.
Pretty happy with the retention.
Ashish Nara, Shubman Gill and Vikram Solankiக்கு thank you சொல்லிடலாம்.
ஆமா, thank you சொல்லணும். Ashish for sure first. But strategy is not to try and miss out on certain people. ஏன்னா ஃபார்ம் பார்க்காம அந்த loyalty factor continue பண்ண வைக்க அது ஒரு strategy, and to kind of balance out a few things that we are missing.
என்ன மிஸ் பண்றீங்க?
No, an opening bat, a keeper bat for example. Kind of try to get certain batters in the middle to boost that up. So we have Nehal Vadera for that. Glenn Phillips, again, depending on who gets out, kind of shuffle up maybe, but probably Glenn, it works better lower down. Shahrukh, Rashid and Washington Sundar come in lower down. And of course, they'll be bowling together as well in tandem. See how that figure works out. But our pacers to round up the 11 is Mohammad Shami. It's foreigner heavy, Josh Hazelwood and Alzari Joseph, which is why we've gotten a few backup. We tried to go for a couple of them in Vaibhav and Mohit, but ended up with Anshul Kamboj for now. We've gotten a few backup keepers in Ben Duckett as well as KS Bharat. Impact player Sikandar Raza for that extra bit.
It has been an exciting year on the Formula One circuit, and joining me to take us through some of the top moments of the season and to make some predictions on what to expect in the months to come is former F1 driver and now expert Karun Chandhok. Thanks for joining in, Karun. Finally, a season where there has been no one-way traffic with Red Bull and Max.
Oh God, thank God, yeah. I mean, we had 2 years of Max dominance, and I think we were all getting a little bit bored of it, frankly. So when we started the year, the first 5 races, again, we were a bit nervous because, Max and Red Bull came out. Basically, they carried on where they left off from last year. He won, I think it was 6 out of the first 7 races, and Australia, he had a technical issue, so he could have won that as well. But I think from Miami onwards, we saw that McLaren had a car quick enough to fight against Red Bull. And we saw Lando take that win in Miami, which was I think good. And from that moment on, we've had 15 fantastic weekends as we head to the final triple header. And I think what's so important is we arrive on Thursday or Friday, and I walk into the track, and you talk to teams and drivers and all these people, and nobody knows who's going to win. And we had more than 2 years of not having that feeling, and I think that as a fan of the sport and for everyone at home, I think that's so important, right? You want to turn the TV on and see a contest where you don't know the outcome.
It's safe to say, of course, that it has been exciting and they've all put pressure on Red Bull and Max Verstappen in particular. But Karun, do you sense, especially over the last few months, that it was getting to him? There was a lot of pressure on Max?
I don't think he felt pressure from, the competitors coming, honestly. I know a lot of people have speculated that he's been under pressure and, Lando's put him under pressure and all these sort of things. I don't believe that. I think Max is actually a perfectionist, and I don't believe it was pressure. I believe it was frustration. He knew that he was still driving just as well as he had earlier in the season when he was winning, or for the previous 2 years, but the results were not coming. The results he wanted. Now, I think in Brazil was a race where he was able to prove and show everyone that was the case. His anger and frustration came from not having a car that was able to fight and win. And in Brazil, when the rain came, he not only did he win, and I think he could have won that race by 1 second and still got the same points, right? But he wanted to send a message to everyone to say, listen, I'm still the top dog. And he went out there and he won by 19 seconds and set I think he had the 9 out of the best 10 fastest laps. And his fastest lap was more than 1 second quicker than the next best, which was Lando. And that's a strong statement to send out to your opposition.
Yes, safe to say, Karun, Brazil was definitely one of the best races, considering where Max started and where he finished. But to think it has been quite a year for Red Bull too, considering how they started with all that controversy surrounding their team principal. Even Max Verstappen's father got involved at one point. You've, of course, interacted with him all this year. Would you say that episode affected him in some way?
I think it probably made dynamics between certain personalities. Certainly we know between Max and between Jos and Christian, it all played out quite publicly. There's a lot of mud being thrown around publicly. We have to remember that there's also the person involved in the case, and it's still an ongoing case. So, it's difficult to really talk about it. And we have to think about her in the middle of all this as well. And people have sort of forgotten that part. So yeah, listen, there was a lot of things going on there, but did it affect Max in the car with his performances? No, because he won in Bahrain, and it was a storm that unfolded in the motorhome in Bahrain. There was just chaos everywhere. I was there watching it. All these people, walking around wondering how it's all going to play out, and he won. And he won in Saudi, and he, won in Japan, and he won in China. So I don't think it affected Max.
Let's speak about, of course, one of their opponents, McLaren. They've come under a bit of fire recently, especially for their strategies involving their two drivers, choosing to let Piastri win over Norris, affecting that Drivers' Championship. Where do you stand on this matter?
There's two ways to look at it, right? I think they look at it in the long-term view. They looked at it and thought, you know what, we've got Oscar on our books for a few more years. He's coming stronger and stronger. And actually for his confidence and for his mental strength going into the future, letting him win the race that he deserved to win. He did the hard work getting to the lead in front. He did the hard work in the early part of the race. The only reason he was behind Lando is because strategically they favored Lando. So I think that's the part that needs to be clear is Oscar deserved to win that race. And McLaren took the long-term view that letting him win that race without team orders was the right thing for the long term, because it gives him so much more confidence. And then I think it helped him win in Baku, right? Because he knew he could win a race and thing. So I think that in that case, that was the right decision. On the flip side, you say, well, they gave up 7 points in the Drivers' Championship, and towards the end of the year, that could be important, maybe. But they don't regret that, and I think that's ultimately it's about their own philosophy, and their own philosophy was about letting the drivers race and go ahead. And actually, I kind of admire that. I think. It's so easy to look at. We all must follow corporate orders, and we must, follow what is good for the wider business. But actually, from a pure racing perspective, I don't want to see team orders. And so, actually, I have my, big respect to Andrea Stella and Zach Brown for staying to the core as pure racers, which both of them are.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. But of course, we have to speak about Lewis Hamilton. Not one of the best seasons, but there's so much to look forward to next year, where we'll see him in red. We were so used to seeing him in silver all the while. How strange will that be?
It will be a bit strange. I think we've all gotten used to seeing him in Mercedes, black and silver, and it is going to be very strange to see him in red. I think. But I'm excited. Listen, I have massive respect for him, right? Like, he's won 7 world championships. He'll be 40 years old next year. He's got more money than God. He can go retire on the beach and just chill out for the rest of his life and do whatever else he wants. But he's taking on the challenge of racing for the most high-profile, high-pressure team in Formula One history. And taking on that challenge at this stage and age of his life and career, massive respect to him for that. Nobody expected it. Certainly Mercedes didn't expect it. I don't think anyone expected it. So I think it's great. It's great for the sport. I think so many people are going to be tuning into Melbourne next year to see how he goes. I'm excited. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
You interact with all of these drivers through the year, Karun, but I have to ask you, there is something about Ferrari, isn't there? I mean, the prospect of every driver wanting to drive for Ferrari at some point, a bucket list, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think, there's a magic to Ferrari. Absolutely, there's a magic to Ferrari that is very attractive to every racing driver, every racing fan. There's something about the red cars. There's about the history of it. The fact that it was started by Enzo Ferrari and his house is still there, and the town and the whole, and it's as close as you get to a national team. We don't have a concept of national teams in our sport. You like in cricket or in football, where you support India or support Australia, whatever. Yeah. So. But Ferrari is the closest it comes. When you go to the Italian Grand Prix, and I always say to people, if you're an F1 fan and if you have the chance one day, go to the Italian Grand Prix, and then you'll understand the magic of Ferrari, and you'll understand the passion of the fans and the lore of the team.
I can only imagine that. But to wrap it all up and put you in a bit of a spot, FIA, of course, has come down hard on their drivers, preventing them from swearing and using profanities. Now, I understand the need to curb, but drivers saying they're not in school. What are your thoughts on this?
I think at the end of the day, I get it in the sense, these drivers are setting an example for kids and language and behavior, things like that. But equally, I just think there's a lot of energy and a lot of time being focused on this, where there are easier ways to deal with it. You work in in the media world. How easy will it be to put a 30-second delay on things and just put a sensor on it? You know, they do it in the cool down room at times. So it would just be something you can fix without having to talk about it. Equally, you know, a lot of the drivers, you have to remember, English is not their first language, and they picked up words and they picked up phrases which, you know, are swear words in the English language. But what are you going to do? You know, if somebody's going to come and start speaking in Marathi or Gujarati or Hindi or Tamil, are we going to have translators for every language in a room picking it up? And also, words that are swear words in any of these languages may not be swear words in another language, right? Things don't always translate. So I just think we're creating a very complicated situation when really there are so many more things more important that F1 need to fix and the FIA need to fix and deal with. You know, things like track limits and the driving standards and the guidelines. There are so many more important issues that energy and mental space should be focusing on.
On that note, thank you so much for joining in, Karun Chandhok. And yes, hoping for a very exciting finish to this season.
No problem. Thank you.
Time for last serve, and we take you to France. Antoine Dupont is leading the captain's run as the rugby team trains in snow at the Stade de France. Dupont's side face Argentina later tonight, their final game of the November internationals. That wraps it up here on Firstpost. I'll of course see you again this weekend as we take you through that mega auction that's lined up on Sunday. I'll see you then. Do take care. Bye-bye.